you get denied. So you're not going to get fouled if you contest and you weren't supposed to. And so as a quizzer, if your buzzer is not working, then you can use a contest, because you could say that the question should be voided and replaced because of an equipment malfunction, which is a provision in the rule manual. So those are situations where you can use a point of order. Now, if a point of order is performed, or a contest, it's been ruled on, and you're not sure as a coach what just happened or how the points were changed, you can use a clarification point of order. You can stand up and say, point of order, I would just like to clarify, so we took 5 points away from that score and I want to make sure that the score is correct. Okay? So you can use that. Also, in the new rule manual, they added a clarification that said if a quizzer answers and they didn't get their full 30 seconds, and they're called right, and the other team contests it and it's granted, that question should be voided and replaced because the quizzer didn't have their full 30 seconds. So quizzer should be afforded the opportunity to fully answer the question, and that only works if the extra 30 seconds could have saved them. Okay? If you jump out of the plane without the parachute, there's not a whole lot I can do to save you. And so if you're a quizzer and you were clearly wrong, it doesn't matter if you had your full 30 seconds or not. There's nothing you could have gone back and done and saved that question. And so if the extra time could have helped the quizzer save the question, and it's granted against them, it's voided and replaced, and they get an opportunity to answer a question with their full time. Almost everything that I noticed from coaches that could be corrected, that could be clarified, they really are found in the rule manual, so please purchase one and read it. There are also some clarification documents that are put out by the General Youth Division called the Points of Interpretation. They're put out every couple months, and they're little things about the material. Maybe some question about how a verse should be understood, or how a question should be answered, or what does the pronoun refer to. The points of interpretation are something that are act every year as an addendum to the manual. And so you have to know the rule manual, but you also have to know the points of interpretation, those documents that are put out, because both of them are going to be ruled on. So for instance, if there's a verse and it has the word he, there might be some question about who does the he refer to. Well, that is put in the points of interpretation document that comes out. And so you've got to know that, because the quizmasters are going to know it, and they're going to make their rulings at the tournament based on that document that's put out. I'm going to allow Brother Derek West to share with us some of his tips and advice, little things that he's noticed that coaches do or shouldn't do, and common mistakes that are made. And so we'll give him that opportunity, and then we'll open up the floor for questions.
I'm really not going to share too much. I think Brother Lytle hit on some really key things that really crosses both juniors and seniors that I've seen. I do want to make one clarification, something as he was talking about the way that the places are awarded for seniors to nationals, and how it gets an extra spot for the district. We thought, and we were prepared to apply that same logic at the end of district finals for juniors last year, and then learned that it didn't get an extra spot in junior quizzing. So if a team places first or second at extravaganza, that team does qualify, but it does not get then an extra spot for the district like it does, at least at this time, for junior quizzing. So maybe in the future, I'm not sure, we'll communicate that if we get a ruling according to that direction. The second thing I wanted to clarify, though, there was an email that came out here recently, I believe, from Brother Long, and in junior quizzing, if a church is going to go to an extravaganza and they have a beginner team and a junior division team, and they're going to go to an extravaganza, they must go to the same extravaganza. You can't have a junior team go to one extravaganza here and a beginner team go to another extravaganza. So both churches need to go to the same extravaganza. So it's just 2 points that I didn't really want to interrupt Brother Lytle as he was talking, but I wanted to make sure we got those out. At this point, I don't know of any other rule changes on the junior division side. We'll get a new rule book here in the next month so that we're prepared when the year kicks off. One of the things that I noticed that happens repeatedly in the junior quizzing division, at least at this point, is just an awareness to the basic functional rules at the board. So what I mean by that is the stand, state, and contest, so that Brother Lytle mentioned earlier. And the thing is, we're not going to punish a kid if the kid is starting to stand. Okay, he or she is making an attempt to stand up and state it. So just make sure you're working with your kids in practice. Get them comfortable. Just do random contest drills. Just have them get used to doing that, especially the junior quizzers. Because it can be really hard to slide that big heavy chair back sometimes and stand up. I've seen kids kind of struggle with it and then give up and not actually go through with the contest because it was too much of a hassle to do so. So encourage them to do that. You know, it's okay to take your time, get it out, and I try my best, and you get caught up in it sometimes, and you got to get to the next question because we have so many quizzes and we got to get through that you'll miss a kid starting to stand. But I try really hard, and I know that the Redmonds do as well, to keep an eye on the quizzer and to be aware that they're attempting to do so. But coaches, that same rule goes for you. Stand up all the way. Be acknowledged. Get that eye contact and state why you're standing. And then the one thing that I've noticed with our quizzers in the junior division, and they're so cute, right? You got these little kids up there at the board. Sometimes you can barely see over the table. And they'll get goofy at the table. He talked about timeouts and when to use them. That early timeout, that's a good one for that purpose there, to just get their focus, hone them in, and talk to them about that, because you don't want to get a foul for being goofy at a table. It's because now they're not cheating, they're not talking to somebody, they're just being a 5-year-old. They're being a 6-year-old. And they're having a focus on a man or a woman standing before them, reading to them for 20 to 30 minutes. It's hard to do. I can't do that sometimes. But take a time out to just get the focus in. And if you have more than 3 quizzers in the junior division, especially the beginner division, we'll focus on that. Have something for them to do quietly as they sit up there with your coach. Okay, have something to occupy their attention. I know that Brother and Sister Lytle, they've had that experience. Brother and Sister Span, Austin and Randy Span, they coached when Aiden was doing it when he was 3, and we had 2 little guys on the team that year. And I mean, to keep them quiet for 20 to 30 minutes was next to impossible without something to occupy their attention. So if you coach a beginner team, if you have somebody at the church that coaches a beginner team, think about that, having something just to occupy the attention of the kid who's sitting out. One of the things that I've noticed with the points of order that Brother Lytle talked about too, and that we have a desire to fix something now. To understand now why something happened. Why did that question get ruled incorrect? And we as parents sitting out in the audience, I've had the privilege a couple of tournaments over the last couple of years to just be a parent, sit and watch my kids quiz, and the ups and downs of a quiz, and you want to know why they ruled my son incorrect. He was right. I know he was right. I've heard him quote that verse 150 times, you know. And so we want that, and we respond. And it's not intentional. It's not that I want to challenge that quizmaster right now. I just want to figure it out. But just hold off. If it's a point of order type situation, yes, stand, give it, and we'll deal with it. And at least my rule of thumb, I'm always open to discussing a ruling of a question afterward. I've done it numerous times and gone into great detail sometimes on why we ruled a certain way. And though there may be disagreement from a coach or from a parent, I've expressed why we did it. And then my thing that I do is I follow up with Brother Long. I started doing that last year and emailed him repeatedly for some clarification type questions. We don't get a points of interpretation for junior quizzing. And so sometimes there's some gray area and you're not sure. So you rule that way that day, and I'm telling you that's a hard thing to do, and it's taken a few years to kind of get comfortable doing that. But you rule the way that you know that you can rule now, and you can always come back. You can grow. You can grow. So just understand that we will try to get to the bottom of things, but sometimes in that instance we're going to rule with what we can rule with, and then we will learn from it. We'll grow from it from there. Other than that, Brother Lytle, you covered most of the heavy hitters, I think, and the important factors for a coach.
Thank you. A couple other brief things. Teach your quizzers that if the quizmaster is staring at you, a blank stare, that means give me more information. I'm not just staring at you because I think your hair looks nice, while it does. But I want you to give me more information. And so sometimes quizzers get intimidated, and I'm staring at them, and they're like, this is awkward, so they start looking around. And so just teach them that, and teach them, if you're not sure, then go back and maybe go to the beginning of the verse and quote it again, or clarify what you meant. In seniors, what's very important is the pronoun rule. In senior quizzing, if there is a pronoun in the verse, he, she, they, him, and if the verse identifies that pronoun inside of it, then you have to tell me what the pronoun's referring to. So, let's see. I'm drawing a blank here as far as an example. A verse with John chapter 1 that mentions the Apostle John. I've got quizzers here, that's why I'm giving them time.